WBZ News Radio 1030 AM radio talk show host and voiceover actor. The one, the only, Jordan Rich.
Well, let's see. According to this, how I broke into the radio and TV business. Well, I jimmied a few logs. No. I am from New England. I'm from south of Boston, Randolph. And when I was a kid in high school, I was a drama kid. I loved theater. Anybody here do any theater? Any plays, acting, back? Yes, shut up, you. You two in the back, yes. And so I was a senior in high school, and we were doing radio club in high school. And I looked at myself in the mirror, as I often do, and I said, this is not a body that's going to be an actor anywhere. I mean, I'm not going to get any parts in movies. But I had a voice that dropped when I was about 13. So I said, I'm going to try radio, which is theater of the mind. And I went to a little school called Curry College, which is in Milton. And I went there and I graduated with a degree in communications. Now, the key to the whole thing, and I'm going to talk about how cool this business is not thinking about this as, oh, I'll just go to class, get my degree, and get out there and try to find work. You have to be, or you should be, or you would want to be, a broadcaster, an artist, a voice actor, a performer right now. Even as you go through this wonderful program here at school, do all the things you're doing, you are in the business. If you think of it that way, and you think of it as not just a job, but a real lifestyle, then it can be the most exciting and wonderful thing in the world. It can be darn frustrating, as we'll talk about, but it can be exciting. So very quickly, I'll give you the very quick 3 to 5 minute window into my life. When I went to Curry College, this was in the 70s, when I went to Curry College, before the internet, cell phones, video games, well, they had Atari ping pong. There wasn't much around. And I got a job my second year in school. I got a job because one of my professors, not as pretty as Miss Godet, but one of my professors saw in me a lot of drive. I worked at the school radio station. You guys just took a tour of the station here. Great stuff. And I got a job at the age of 18 and a half, 19, at a major Boston station of doing all things, something I never thought in a million years I would ever do, a weatherman. It was after the blizzard of 78, which you may have read about in the history books, right? And I became a weather guy at the National Weather Bureau. It was an experiment that WRKO at the time was trying. And I didn't know anything about the weather except, but I learned enough to be a weather reporter. In any event, that was the start of my professional career in 1978. What's this, 2013? 35 years? Holy smokes. But you never know where it's going to take you. And I have two friends here. I have another friend here. We all know that. The business of show business, radio, television, performing, vocal arts, whatever it might be, is so fluid that you never know. So I worked at that station while I was going to school, did mornings, and I want to mention something very important that most of us know this in the business. It's not a 9-to-5 kind of existence. I work now weekend overnights, been doing that for 17 years. I pull more all-nighters than any college kid on the planet. But that's what I love about it. It's not predictable, it's not routine. So I did that for a couple of years, 4 years, 5 years, morning drive at WRKO, big time. And then of course I lost that because things changed, and I had to go all the way back to the beginning. And I picked myself up and wound up in Lowell, Massachusetts. I did talk radio on a station where nobody called. I mean, it was really challenging. And I then got a job as an FM announcer. So here I am. I'm 22, 23. I've been in radio for 5 years professionally. I've already been a weather reporter, a morning co-host. I did a little news. I then shifted over to talk, and then I went to music at an old FM station called Wish 99.5.
You're from Chelmsford originally, right?
But, pardon me?
Chelmsford.
You're from Chelmsford, right, so you know Wish. I mean, Wish and LLH.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. And I worked there for 15 years. We did mornings and changed around a bit. And then that ended, and to bring us up to the present, guys, I left this, and life lessons. It's all about life lessons. You can learn how to turn a mic on, how to be a better broadcaster, how to use your voice, how to write. You're learning that right now. The most important thing in this whole ball of wax is the life lessons along the way that you learn. And one of the most important important life lessons is you never burn any bridges, which means you don't leave some operation or some event after they've canned you and do what you want to do, which is, you son of a... You don't do that, because you never know who you're going to be working with or for, or who's going to be working for you in the future. So I got laid off, as we all do from time to time, from WSSH, which changed formats. I was the last one out the door. Thank you for your service. I said, okay. And I left. Who owned it? I can't even tell you. There were 5 owners that...
Was it a privately owned or a big corporation?
Yeah, it was a private corporation. But you're writing your, I know, soon-to-be doctor got that. You're going to write your thesis. You could do a whole 200 pages on that whole thing. But the point is, I left WSSH in '95 after 15 glorious years doing morning drive, and I looked out the window. I left the parking lot, and across the street was WBZ, the big white building. Now, I don't know how many of you are from New England. How many of you guys are locals? Okay. Even if you think, AM just means the morning time. AM radio, right? Say what you will. BZ is still the king, because it's the station that you listen to and your mummies and daddies listened to when you wanted to know if there was school that day. Okay? That's why I listened. But it's the news station, talk station. So I said to myself, gosh, I'd love to work there just once in my life. Because at this point, I have my own business, I should tell you. Some of you guys know that. I have a production company, and I still have it 30 years later. But I said, I love being on the air. I love performing. I love it. And God, I'd love to work there just once. That's it. 6 months goes by. I couldn't get arrested, as they say. I couldn't get a job as a music guy because that was so associated with that format. And then I got a call out of the blue. Here's the big life lesson. I got a call out of the blue from Bill Flaherty, who some of you know. And he was an assistant producer, a low-level guy, years back when he used to call. We were neighbors. I was across the way in another building. And he would call us at the station, the music station, and say, hey, there's a concert, the Jacksons are in town, we don't have any music, you guys have anything over there? And I say, sure. So I'd dub it onto a reel-to-reel tape, and I would leave it for him at 5 o'clock in the morning. I did that 2 or 3 times. I always did a favor for him, no big deal. He remembered that. So he called me to fill in for somebody. I filled in a few times, a job opened up, and just things happened, and it's 17 years later, and I host a weekend talk show on WBZ, which, for those of you who are up late, many of you are, Friday at midnight into Saturday midnight to Sunday. Now, the great part about it is, who wants to be up all night, right, working in some little 2-bit radio station where no one's listening? Well, in this case, everyone's listening, because it's 38 states in Canada, it's all over the world, and it's the most amazing fun. You can't even begin to tell you how much fun it is, because I can talk about anything, except serious stuff. I mean, serious stuff. I don't talk about politics, but I talk about everything. I interview everybody from, okay, get this, I can interview a rap star one day, a movie queen from the 40s the next day. I can do a topic on presidential history, and then I can talk about marine animals. I mean, it doesn't matter, and it's a variety show. So, and it's really cool. It's really fun, and I'll make this offer. If anybody, you can arrange this. If you guys want to come in some night for a little tour, we bring some of you guys in. You'd have a great time. The place is, the BZ. It's amazing. Yes.
Where do you get your ideas from? I mean, you say, I want to talk about this today.
You know what? This is what it's all about. Broadcasting, being on the air or behind the scenes or in the media. You know what it's all about? And this is a perfect answer here, I think, to your question. It's all about loving life and being curious about a lot of things, okay? This is the coolest job in the world. And my ideas come from various sources. Obviously, the news of the day, but actually, books, authors, publicists, they're constantly getting in touch with me pitching me with ideas. Or I'll see something in the paper, or I'll know of something, or a friend of mine will have invented something. It doesn't matter. It's just all coming from here. And I write a column, and I do podcasts, and I do all that stuff. It's all connected. But where do the ideas come from? A love of a curiosity and an excitement about getting up every day and doing what I do. I'm never bored. And is it frustrating at times? Of course, everything is. There's always down times and things that don't go right, but it is the most exciting thing. And you don't have to be doing what I'm doing to have a kick. You can be a music producer. You can be, Melissa for years has done outstanding work as a traffic reporter in helicopters flying around. My 2 friends in the back, Michelle and Will, are 2 wonderful actors who then also do voice work and commercials on camera, and you've seen them and they're terrific. There's all kinds of things, but it's a thirst. It's a hunger. It's really a thirst. And let me ask you this, guys. How many of you are interested in actually being on the performing end? Whether it be voiceover, on camera, sports, news. Okay, raise your hands. Don't be afraid. Good. And how many of you are interested in being more behind the scenes? How many of you are interested in doing a little bit of both? I hope everybody raises their hand. Raise your hand. Both. Because it's really, really incumbent upon you to want to soak up as much of this stuff as you can. When I was at school in the old days, we didn't have a TV studio, so I didn't have that opportunity.
TVs back then.
Yeah, well, we had tubes, and then you blow in the. We had rolled radios that were the size of this. Hey, look, there's the Lone Ranger. But I found that, and I find it today, and with the internet and with the amazing amount of stuff that's available, there's just everywhere information, stuff, ideas, creative. Podcasts, for instance. I mean, nobody would have envisioned this, but you can have a radio show, quote unquote, tomorrow, today. Any one of you can be on the air, not just here at school, but on your own, developing an idea, developing a podcast, and you can be the next Mark Maron. Anybody know who Mark Maron is, the comedian? He's the #1 podcast guy. You can be your own entity. You can have your own. Anybody have their own website here yet?
We have some kids that do have podcasts.
Fantastic. See, the point is, writing and exploring and interviewing is all part of what I do every single day, every waking and sometimes sleeping moment. And a lot of it, I'm going to say this, and you guys strike me, I don't know you, but I'm just meeting you. You strike me as very earnest and very hardworking people. And I can tell you're here and you're paying attention to this old guy for a reason. I can tell you this. No one really gets through this and achieves and moves forward without hard work. It really is. It is, I mean, it's time consuming and it's work inducing. And if you hear about somebody who gets a really great job and a big break and making tons of money coming out of nowhere, well, they usually don't last that long. It's short-lived. You really have to build up cred. Okay? Business cred, I call it, in this wonderful business. And how do you do that? Well, we can talk about that as we go along, but you do it by, A, showing up on time. Simple as that. Right, Melissa?
Yeah.
You know, showing up on time. This morning I was listening to EEI Sports at 6 o'clock, and Dennis and Callahan, anybody listen? Dennis was late because there was ice on his, they were making fun of him like crazy. He was an hour late. That was a goofy, fun thing. But if you don't show up for a shift or an appearance or an event, on time, ready to go, that throws the entire team off. So that's number one. Number two is doing your homework. I have about 10 to 15 interviews a weekend. Some of them are short, 5 minutes. Some of them are an hour. Some of them are half an hour. Of those interviews, 5 of them might involve books, authors. I have to read the books. I have to study the background. I have to do my homework, or I'm a complete blubbering idiot, and everybody knows it. Okay, so there's a lot of homework that goes on. The third wheel, showing up, doing homework. You know what the third one is? It's so basic. It's golden rule. Treat people well, be respectful, and always remember that it's called pay it forward. You guys know that. If you do something for somebody in a positive light, a favor, or you go the extra distance, or you don't say, I'd love to help you, but my shift's over, see ya. If it's going to take you 5 more or 10 more or an hour longer, that's remembered forever. Likewise, the good stuff is remembered forever. And I have the most important thing in your career, in your life, beyond your loves and the people you care about, is your reputation. And in this business, it follows you everywhere. You were mentioning the wonderful J.J. Wright, who is a dear friend, who did that voice intro. Here's a guy with a superb, wonderful reputation. He's one of the great guys in the business. And he recently, was working at ODS, and they just dissolved that station. And but he's respected everywhere. He'll do just fine. He will bounce back. But then there are other guys and gals who run people over, kick them, scratch, ruin things, destroy lives, and they don't last. They really don't. So I'm not here to lecture you on morals, but I'm saying this industry, unlike so many other industries where it's a little more cold and impersonal, this industry is all about you. It's your ego. It's all about me. I'm the commodity. If they don't like me, I'm gone. But so the talent's one thing, but they've got to, respect you and like you. So that's really where That's the lesson I've learned over and over again.
They're all competing with you, right, Jordan? Competing for the same job, so it gets kind of cutthroat in that sense.
It is cutthroat, but I'll tell you this, Melissa. What I've really thought about over the years, and I think about it more and more, is yes, of course, there's always going to be a time when somebody they want over you. There's no question about that. Most of the time, listen carefully, you're competing against yourself. You are competing against you. If you find yourself slacking a little bit, and for instance, you get an internship, all right? Internship is gold. I know you were telling me that you can do it. You have to use your initiative. I urge you guys to get out there, get an internship early, meaning like for the summer, start now, for the fall, start by the spring, and don't just, would you maybe just have to get coffee for somebody for a little while? Yeah, but if you do that well, even getting the coffee well, believe me, more opportunity will show up. But here's the thing, I've had interns over the years at stations, and some of them are just, where is he? Not here. Can we count on him? Or when he or she gets there, it's like, yeah, they don't really want to be there. I've had other interns who have been just eager beavers, and one of them is one of my interns from 1993 or 4 is one of the top guys at HBO right now. Really cool. He's one of the top programming directors at HBO. He doesn't direct the shows, but he's involved in production and stuff. And there's a lot of examples like that. An internship is the closest step to the job right after school. I'd say the turnover rate for interns, I'm going to guess, is anywhere from 20 to 40, maybe even 50%. You get a better shot of getting a job there when you get out of school. Maybe even higher than that.
So will somebody that does the bare minimum to get by just doing an internship get the job, or will the overachiever intern get the job?
Overachiever every time. At WBZ right now, we have our promotion assistant, good job, who was an intern. Guy's great, and Lori, the promotion director, said, I want him. And the reason she wanted him is because, man, he stepped up. And it doesn't mean you throw yourself in front of a car for them. It doesn't mean you don't have to, I mean, we're not going to get crazy here. But guys, we're living in a time when people don't call people back. People don't respond to emails. People don't write thank you notes. I know it's going to sound corny, but let me tell you, it's gold. It still works. And in our business, where it's all front and center, it's all about you, it's all about image, the people who come through and are respected last. Not only last, but get moved up. Again, this is just life lessons that I've learned from my mentors 35, 40 years ago, and I've never forgotten them. I had a teacher in high school who was my drama coach. I love him dearly, and he took me aside, and the first play I was in was The Music Man, okay, which is a great old play. I was in the quartet, right? Were you ever in Music Man, Will? I was in the barbershop quartet singing Ice Cream because my voice dropped. I was a punk. But I didn't show up to a couple of rehearsals thinking, well, it's only the chorus. What the hell do I have to... He took me aside. I'll never forget this. And he said, come here. He said, you've got some talent, but I'm telling you right now, if you miss one more rehearsal, you will never set foot on that stage in your height. And then the lights went up. You will never set foot on the stage, then they went on again, in your entire career. Why? He said, because I don't want you to turn into a monster like these three. Holy moly, I couldn't believe it. I was like shaking, because nobody ever told me that it was that important. I never missed a rehearsal then. After that, I was in every play. I had a fantastic time, and I learned that important lesson. You got to show up, and you can't slough up. And the other lesson is, and where's the guy with the computers? He left already. I was going to give him a compliment. The other lesson is, when you're working in this business, of all businesses, as a performer, whether it's being on the air, whether it's being on stage, whether it's doing a voiceover, you're only one part of the, you might be the quote star. You can't do it without the engineers, the producers, the team. And we've all seen it. Will, Michelle, we've all seen people run over the support staff. And my motto in life is, I judge people on how they treat like doormen and security guards and secretaries and waiters. But I've seen people in television, for instance, and we work at Channel 4, I've seen a lot of people come through the old gate. I've seen some people who are just diva to the max, and they run over people like they're carpets. And then the greatest satisfaction is when they get canned or something happens to them and the people they ran over still there and they leave. It's just, we're only on live for, 120, 30 years, something like that. And we don't want to screw it up. So these are all the things. As far as getting into the business, because I want to move on, I want advice to breaking in. And by the way, let's fire any questions. We'll get to the voiceover in a second. I'm very impressed with the school. I didn't know that it was a communications program until Melissa contacted me. And all of the things you're going to be learning in the books and the classes and on site and the studio, phenomenal. But what I would advise you to do is think outside of the box, A, with the internship, and B, this is important, think outside of the box in terms of you in the community contacting people you'd like to work with. Now, what do I mean by that? This is the advice that I've given for years. If you admire some particular radio or TV personality or format or something, contact them. Now, if they don't respond, you move on to somebody else. You can contact anybody and say, I'm a student at Newbury College. Okay? This is on your own. You might get extra credit. Depends on what the teacher wants to do. You could contact someone, let's say it was me, and you said, I want to do a project for school. I'd like to interview you. Okay? What a perfect way to get in and meet somebody if they'll agree to it. I mean, I would always agree to it. And what a perfect way to establish a connection. And then, okay, this is just one example, then you could do an interview. Let's say you do a recorded interview or even tape a video, put something together here at the shop, and then present it to them as a thank you, saying that this was something I did for a project. In other words, develop a relationship. Because unlike other businesses and other jobs where people work in sort of cubicles and vacuums, we're very fluid. We work in the world, I'm as connectable to you guys as you are to, let's say, somebody at MTV. We're all connected. So why not use the connections, okay? And if you're going to establish a connection and a contact, doesn't have to be with one individual or group, make sure you keep the contact going. Provide them with a thank you note and an email, or get that conversation going. Because, throwing up stuff up in the air, it's going to stick. There's no question about that. And the other things, of course, matter. Good quality, if you're going for on air, we're going to talk about this, good quality demos, good production skills. Writing is key, because nobody can write anymore. If you guys can write, and I'm not talking about Shakespeare, I'm talking about write clearly, grammar, proper use of syntax, the things that really kind of matter, trust me, you'll be in good shape. The other thing I want to remind you about, and I'll give you a perfect example of how this drove me crazy, not here, but at another school. I heard something on the air the other day. It's the most important thing these days is frame of reference. Does anybody know what that refers to? What am I referring to? When I say the words frame of reference, what do I mean? Well, I'll tell you. It means knowing a little bit about a lot of things, particularly things you're going to be talking about. If you're going to be the authority, and once you're on the air or writing a script or doing an actual broadcast, news, sports, music, whatever it might be, guess what? The audience goes, hey, you're supposed to know that. That's the leader. I'm following the leader, right? Frame of reference means knowing, before you open your mouth, a little bit about the subject so you don't fall into the trap. Here's the prime example. Two of them. Emerson College, I'll mention it. I don't know who the person was. I was listening the other day. I listen to everything. That's another thing. I listen. I am voracious. I love listening to all kinds of things, and music, everything. Talk, everything. TV, DVR, filled. I don't have time to watch it, but I'm listening, and the guy's doing this promo on the Broadway music thing.
What day of the week was it?
Probably Saturday.
Okay.
For a play.
Sarah also went there.
Okay, Sarah.
And I know what
You may even know what I'm referring to. I heard this young man, good voice, really. I heard him say, and then, you can get tickets to see this Pulitzer Prize winning play. Pulitzer. Now, a Pulitzer If you are ethnic, it's a type of food that you put meat in a pie. No, I'm just kidding. There's no such thing as a Pulitzer. It's Pulitzer. The Pulitzer Prize. You don't have to know everything about Joseph Pulitzer. You don't, but you should know how to pronounce it in a promo, because it's going to run over and over again. I got to call Jack Casey and tell him. I'm going to call him today. You'll tell him?
I talked to him. They do have this feature on the internet that you can get pronunciations of words that you don't know how to pronounce. So.
Brilliant. You can, any word that you're unfamiliar with. You know the old days, mom and dad, no, not mom and dad, teachers in high school, look it up. Get a dictionary, you lazy bum. Look it up. Yeah. And you know what? We'll talk about voiceover in a second. When you're doing a voiceover script, as you guys know all too well, sometimes there are words we never heard of. So rather than go for it and experiment, we ask for a pronunciation guide, because, you know, I don't know these medical terms. Here's the other example, though, of frame of reference. Listen carefully. And I'm going to play this game with you guys, okay? Frame of reference. There was a talk show back in 2000 during the great millennium switchover, Y2K, if you guys remember. They probably don't remember that, really. Yeah. But anyway, one of the great topics, and I've done this on my show, it's an easy one. I mean, it's an open-ended topic, is, tell me, folks, in the 20th century, who would you most like to have had dinner with? Famous person, living or dead. Okay? 20th century, think about it. It's 100 years. Living or dead, personalities, famous. Who would it be? Now, before I tell you my story, anybody want to throw out a name? Who would you like to? Yes, Melissa.
My mother.
Your famous person.
She's upstairs in heaven, but yeah.
Okay.
Her.
Besides Melissa's mother, who's lovely, any famous name people, stars, presidents? Come on, anybody? Don't be bashful.
Famous person?
Yeah, look at me, a famous person.
Audrey Hepburn.
Good one, Audrey Hepburn. Oprah? Good. They can be very much alive. Jim Morrison. That's all. That one comes up a lot. Yes, dear.
Dimebag Darrell and Sarah. He's a guitarist.
Good. The reason I went is because I'm not familiar. Okay? That's going to tie into what I'm going to tell you in a second. Anybody else? Madam?
So pleasant.
Okay. Wow. You're good.
Good.
She's a good-looking lady, right? She really looks cute. Oh, sorry. Anybody else? Young lady? You're cute. Who would you like to have dinner with? You don't know. Okay, how about you?
Patti LaBelle.
Patti LaBelle. Cool.
Katie Couric.
Katie Couric. Very cool. Okay. Frame of reference. Here's the thing, and I'm glad you mentioned somebody that I wasn't aware of. The guy on the air, I won't tell you who it was, said that, and people were calling up, John Kennedy, Marilyn Monroe. Well, one woman called up, okay, and mentioned a name. And the name was, and I'll tell you who this is if you don't know, the name was Paul, P-A-U-L, Robeson, R-O-B-E-S-O-N. Now, some of you may know that name. If you don't, I'll explain. Here's what the host said. Gee, who's that? I never heard of. Who? Come on, mention somebody that we all know. And I went, oh, God. Because even if I'm out of, 1,000 people, even if only 30 or 100 or 200 know who it is, you've eliminated those people. They just think you're a complete. So I'll tell you who it is. Paul Robeson was an African-American opera singer, actor in the 20s, 30s, 40s. He was also an avowed, well, not avowed, he was accused communist, went to Russia. Now get this, a 6'7" black guy in Russia in 1936, and they love him there. That's not what they do in Russia. They don't like people who aren't, white and vodka drinking, but they wanted to make an example, right, and hit the United States. It was a very controversial guy. Great voice, sang a song called Old Man River, he keeps on. All right, but what the guy said pointed out something very important. It's a lifelong lesson. Frame of reference. If you don't know what you're getting yourself into, then I would, in that case, that was a name I wasn't as familiar with. But in that context, when they're talking about, celebrities of that type, historical, instead of saying, I don't know, what should he have said?
Tell me more.
Thank you. Well, tell me why. And she would have laid it all out. And she actually, the caller went, huh? There's also another show, I won't mention it. Oh, yes, I will. Howie Carr. And he's got this guy, this is a fun thing. He's got this guy on Mondays called Max Robbins, who's supposed to be the TV expert. Any one of you could do this better than he. This guy, I've never heard anything like this. He does a thing where people call, hey, Max, is NCIS going to be renewed? Oh, yeah. and then you find out he's just making it up. He has no idea. So last week I heard the show, and 3 people in a row said, "You're wrong. Everything you said is wrong. You have no credibility. I could do the show." And I went, "He's still doing the show, but what are you going to do?" Point is, frame of reference is really important. So these are general things, but if you don't start work, you can work on these things immediately. It's called Google. You can figure out anything. It's not hard. But how many of you are interested in sports as a broadcast possibility? Okay. I'll give you a quick example here. It's not just sports anymore. You've got to know about drugs. You've got to know about concussions. You've got to know about gambling. You've got to know about politics, lockouts, agents, contracts, legal issues. You've got to know about, weird stuff like Manti stuff. You've got to be able to talk about this.
How to pronounce the names is tough sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in sports alone. Okay, how many people are interested in music? As jock music stuff. Okay, good. And I know you are, right? All right. I think the music people know this. You want to know about the music, the stories behind it, the VH1 stories, right? You want to know this because the audience wants to know it. You don't have to spill it all out, but it's good to be an authority. I've done years of talk, but before that I did a lot of music, and not that I liked it, but I had to be an authority on the quote adult contemporary music. Had to know about the artist and all that. Jazz is my thing. I know a lot about that and classical, but I just had to learn it. So the point is, you know your subject area, but you know a little bit about life. Okay, every day I check People.com, Drudge Report, all the Fox, CNN. I check them all. The locals, all the websites. I read the Herald online. I read the Globe when I can, and then I watch. God forsake for me for saying this. I watch Entertainment Tonight occasionally, Inside Edition, and Meet the Press. You just want to be engaged with a lot of stuff. Okay? Yes.
Mrs. Perry had a great story about that in the fall when she spoke about she was working at the station in 2011 on December 11th, and she was the only one who knew how to pronounce Afghanistan, and was really thrown into the forefront because of her world Civ class. She kind of paid attention and knew what that was all about. So.
Ahmadinejad was a challenging one, the head of Iran. Took a lot of time for a lot of people to get that. I'll tell you another thing too. Broadcasting is even if you're doing recorded stuff, voiceover. A lot of times it's immediate and pressure packed, and that's why I do it. I love it. And by that I mean I've been on the air many, many, many times when we've ditched the programming and had to talk about something like 9/11 for 6 months, or last month the shootings in Newtown. We did just nonstop. I don't want to call it coverage for me because I'm doing phone calls and getting people's reaction. But the death of Princess Diana occurred on my watch like 15 minutes before I went on, and that was an amazing night. Just people outpouring emotion. So you have to be, not you have to be, but you might want to be prepared for things like that. That's why we do it. That's why it's so damned exciting, because you never know what's going to come up. It can even happen on a music show. You could be playing music and hear that a reunion concert has been announced. Man, and you can't wait to tell your listeners about that. And if you know about it and understand the background, then all the better. Now, I think because I'm looking at the schedule and I follow formats.
You don't have to. I just give.
Oh, okay.
A guide. You can do whatever you want. They do want to hear about the voice, like how to improve your voice.
Yeah. I thought we'd do that now.
Whatever you want.
Sure. Those of you guys who are interested in being voiceover talent, which, by the way, we have 3 outstanding in the room. I'm just the elder statesman.
Truly, come on.
But these 3 wonderful people, including your professor, do a great job. But if you're interested, even in not being on the air, it's a good idea to work on your voice. We all have a unique voice, and ultimately, expression is everything. How we write, how we speak, even on the phone, makes all the difference. Now, how many people are interested in actual, and you know what it is, voiceover, meaning recorded narrations, commercials, things like that? Anybody? Good. And how many people, again, are interested in being on the air, so to speak? Okay. Well, last night, God bless him, Mayor Menino gave his State of the City address, And I think every fourth word I figured out, because he mumbles and all. But he doesn't need to worry, he's Mayor Menino. But we need to do certain things. We need to enunciate, which is clearly speak. We need to pronounce words properly. And if need be, we need to, have enough strength in our voice to do what we want to do. You cannot call a baseball game, a football game, or a hockey game, when I say call, announce it, for 4 quarters or whatever, and not be ready, and not be able to breathe and understand how to use your voice. Just like, you guys have done them long 50-page scripts in one day. So, very basically, I'll just give you a quick, very simple 3 steps to work on. Number 1 is really listening to yourself. How many of you had a chance to listen to yourselves on tape? Okay. What happens when you listen to yourself is you get a different perspective, because most of the time, people, when they hear themselves first time, what do they say? Oh, do I sound like that? I don't sound like that, do I? But when you do listen to yourself, you step outside of yourself, right? And it's a very sort of a weird thing, but you're now being objective about how you sound. And guess what? Your voice is just like your instrument. It's a trumpet, it's a violin, whatever it is. You're playing it and using it as an instrument. And the only way to do that is to hear it. And the only way to hear it is to step outside wearing these and play things back and say, oh yeah, I'm pretty monotone. Or, let me be objective about this. I use a lot of crutch words. Ums and likes and ums and buts and what. Or, I have a really strong Boston accent. You know what I mean, Ma? It's retarded. I can't believe it. I took a heart attack. I mean, that's me, I'm from here, by the way. I'm from Randolph, where everything is, how you doing? How's the car? Is the car there? Good, very good. But I had to learn to fashion that. So, all of this goes into the process. The most important first step, though, is breathing, okay? Diaphragmatic breathing, which I'm sure you'll if you haven't already, you'll learn it. It's one of the things I beat into my students, and it's just learning how to breathe. Everybody stand up for a second. Keep you guys awake for 10 more minutes before I wrap up. Diaphragmatic breathing is belly breathing. When you take a breath in, your belly should expand like you're drinking a lot of beer. And then when you exhale, you contract your abdomen. Everybody try that with me. Ready? Inhale. Expand your belly, not your shoulders stretch. Now, contract. Now, this is going to take a while. It usually takes about 3 weeks of just thinking about it. But I guarantee you, if you concentrate on diaphragmatic breathing, now the diaphragm is a little muscle underneath the sternum, right? And when you expand the diaphragm, you're basically pushing the stomach, not the stomach muscles, but the chest walls out to fill up this balloon, which is right here. See this balloon? By the way, I have perfect 6 abs, but not when I do that. Watch this. See? Abs. Okay? What I'm doing is I'm forcing air up through my lower cavity, my balloon, and I've got force and power in my voice, or just warmth and strength. It's not about but it's about having enough control. How many of you get tired if you're talking all day? By the end of the day, I get a little raspy. We all do, right? If you start thinking about where the breath comes from, it comes from down here. You center it, and put your hands on your belly. Simon says, good. And let's take a nice, easy breath through your nose. Concentrate in your head on pushing your belly out. In other words, filling it up with air, and then let it out gently, and push in very gently like a Heimlich. There you go. And if you just focus on this, inhale, your whole body expands, right? Exhale. And what you're doing is you're filling up your body, but you're also stretching your whole body, because it's important to use your body as an actor or as a performer. You can't just stand still and expect it to work. You've got to use your whole body. So, anybody yoga here? Oh, come on. What's the matter with you people? Hey, Will, hey, I do hot yoga, man. Bikram. And what we do is all kinds of exercises to stretch and stuff. But the idea is filling up and doing everything from your core. Your core is where everything is. People think, oh, it's my heart's broken. No, your stomach is hurting because you've lost your love. So it's all coming from in here. You may be seated. Open up your prayer books to page... Oh, sorry. No, but voice is very important. And guess what? Everybody in this room, everybody, can improve voice in days simply by working on your breathing, standing up straight, good posture, right? And this is going to sound really, really silly. Opening your mouth. Because a lot of people don't open their mouth. Hi, how you doing? Fine. especially in New England. We tend to be very tight-lipped and closed-mouthed. Stretching your mouth. I often yawn. Well, here we go. They're all going to yawn now. I had to say that, right? I'll look so bad on camera. But if you yawn, you're stretching the muscles. You're intaking a lot of air. It's a perfect way to warm up. The other thing to do is to just read aloud. A lot. Just read everything you can get your hands on. A newspaper, a bank brochure, a travel guide, and then read scripts. I imagine you have plenty of scripts, right? Read plenty of scripts. The more you read, the faster your eyes move along the page. Everything matters, whether you're doing it live or whether you're doing recorded. When I say live, you're a newscaster on TV. What are you doing? You're reading a teleprompter. It's not that hard to get used to reading into the teleprompter because you're looking right into the camera. What is hard is perhaps reading something for the first time and making it sound real and natural. And that's the secret to the whole thing. Both Will and Michelle and Melissa are great at taking a script that somebody else wrote and making it sound like they're just saying it. Or they're saying it as a character. And you don't have to be a trained, actor from some acting academy. You just have to sort of relax into whatever you're doing and make it happen. Okay, did you have a script that you wanted to play around with?
The kids do have them, and they were going to play some stuff for you if you wanted, but we can do that another time.
I'd be happy to come back if you wanted to do it another time and just do a VO kind of session about.
At the radio studio.
We could do that. Yeah.
I would love that.
We could do that because it really requires me to hear you guys, and.
Are you available next Wednesday? Or are you busy?
Email me. I'll check. But it's fun. I mean, and the thing about this is, and I said this at the beginning, and I'll say it again. It's all creative. In other words, everything I'm doing when I leave here today, I'm going back to my studio. Here's the stuff we're working on, okay? We have a woman who read a book, an audio book. It's called Divine Intuition. She's one of these intuitives, really interesting lady. We're just finishing the editing on that. That's kind of back behind the scenes. But I've got a commercial to do. I got 2 spots to do. One's a public service announcement for something in Beverly that I'm just doing as a favor. And the other one I know that's sitting there waiting for me is a commercial for something in a Dedham Square business group, and they want to do a quick 30-second spot for BZ. And then I have to edit what I recorded yesterday, which is a little show I do called Connoisseur's Corner about food and wine. And there's 15 of them. I got to just edit them up with my guest. And then I've got 4 or 5 other things that I'm probably working on. Interviews, voiceovers. We do a lot of narration work. You know what narration is? It's like the long form stuff. And some of it is so... I've been in the business for a long time. Started when I was just a little pipsqueak. But I think what Joe this is Joe Stapleton, by the way, an old friend and a great broadcaster and a fine movie actor, by the way. Seen him in a lot of films. I would say what's really happened is, yes, the business has changed in that, a lot of stations are being owned by 1 or 2 groups in markets like ours. So it's less work for people, cut back on the creativity, it's corporate. But I think bigger than that even, is a lack of attention to the artistry, a lack of attention to the little things. We've been talking about some of them, pronunciation, enunciation, being clear and succinct, working on being accurate. News, for instance, there used to be a real pride in doing news on the radio or TV. Now, it's like slapdash and everybody's doing everything, and if you just tune in to any cable station, you'll see what I'm talking about. So it's an attention to the detail, the professionalism. It used to be an art form. It's not anymore. It's not considered an art form. I would consider it that way. I hope you guys will. I take pride in the art of it. So I'd say 2 things. It's the business has changed because the business has changed, deregulation and all that, and also, man, it's sad to see how, listening to the radio and what people sound like. In my day, you had to have the chops, you had to have the voice, or the ability to communicate clearly. So if you work on that, you're going to be ahead of the game. Yes, sir. Sorry for calling you a stretch, but it seemed like the right thing at the time.
No worries.
Big guy, tall.
I was just wondering, in your long career...
They keep saying long career. I'm ready for the old age home. Yes.
What's the most embarrassing moment you've had live on air, and how'd you work through that?
You have another hour? Holy smokes. We all have embarrassing moments. I'll come up with one or two, but I can always tell you this, and I learned this early on, and I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. Nobody cares. Usually it just goes by, and it's forgotten about as soon as it happens. You'll remember it. The worst one might have been not too long ago, maybe about, I'm going to say 8 or 9 years ago. And it really had nothing, I had nothing to do with this, but I was the guy there. Right after, you remember when Janet Jackson whoosh, ripped her? And everybody was crazy about the FCC was going to impose these big fines. This was about a month after this happened. I had a professor from Dartmouth College on the phone interviewing him on a Sunday night about teenage sexuality. Now, this is a professor, right? And he's got all these degrees, and he's and I won't repeat what he said because you can't say it on the air. I'm not going to say it here. But as he's talking to me, he's doing very, and of course, and I'll summarize. He said, and of course, today, the issue with the young people today is that, many of them have, I'll shorten it, F-buddies. But he said the word. Now, okay, listen carefully. It's a month after, and everybody's on edge. The producer at the time, she's since gone, was zoned out and didn't catch. We have a 10-second delay. And I'm in the studio going, cut that. And she's going, she's just goes over the air. Then a few seconds later, he talks about your favorite, Bill Clinton, and the act that occurred in the Oval Office. He says the word. I'm saying, holy crap, mister, you got this, my license, my career, you schmuck. So I cut him fast. I didn't bring attention to it. One guy called. One old codger called. Because it was in context. It was like, so anyway, I was talking about this, and the president and I were talking about F-buddy. What? So I cut it, and he didn't even realize. Now, this is no offense, please. He's a professor. You guys are. And I called him on Monday, because it was Sunday. I said, Professor, do you know what you said on 50,000 watts, and it went over the air? And I told him, and he went, Now, you would think he would have known. That was an embarrassing moment. That was a scary moment, because we would have been responsible for not cutting. It's stupid, I know. Words are words, But that was a moment. I have 10,000 other moments. Everybody has the moments when I know I have to wrap up here, but everybody has the moments, Joe, when they light the copy on fire. Remember that old thing? You're reading the news and they light the copy on fire. Or the nude, there's always somebody, when you're on the air and they're behind the glass and somebody takes their clothes off and moons you. That stuff. That everybody's had that happen.
I laughed there. I couldn't stop laughing. That was actually my turn.
And then, you know what the worst thing is? Doing a talk show, and I had a coughing fit, and I had this damn person on the phone, and I was hoping, all I needed was like 30 seconds, and I'd say, so, professor or doctor or whatever, can you tell me more about this? And she went, yes, well, it's certainly going to take its time, and yes. So I was, so I mean, that was like a disaster, like a hairball. Those things happen. But again, they go by and they're forgotten about as soon as they happen, for the most part. And you just got to roll with it. I have no idea. Nobody does. But I can tell you this: everybody who puts their toe in and tries it, if they do the things we've talked about, if they work hard, if they show up, if they have the desire, I think they have at least an opportunity to get into the business and then take it from there. I had no idea, and Joe and I worked sort of as colleagues over the years. I had no idea I'd be doing the weather at 19 and then a talk show in Lowell. You never know. But you think of it in terms of your life, and it's a lifestyle. And you don't get bummed out when you don't get the job you want right away, because that could be down the line. And you might even learn to like the job. A lot of people do music and they, man, I hate country music. But they get a great gig doing country music, and all of a sudden, they're the stars of the country music station. They might not even like the music, but they'll certainly love the gig. So just expectations, I think Dickens called them great, but he's dead, so what the hell does he know? Just go along and keep your eyes and ears open for opportunities, okay? And know that you have as much a chance of getting into this as anybody else, because you have the desire. It's all about desire, really. And it is frustrating. I've got people in this room, I know, or like me, have been frustrated. But if you give up, then go into something else. Don't, but it is exciting. It is exciting. I'm an upbeat guy. I don't believe in telling people, it's a terrible business. Those kids are stupid for getting into it. I've had teachers who've done that, and it's really something. You know, I'll end with this. The audience that I have, which is weird and all over the place, they will connect with you if they see that you're human. If they know that you're real. Real is what it's all about. If they know you're real, they'll connect with you. If you're doing something recorded, it doesn't matter. We'll do it till we get it right. But if you're on the air live and something goes wrong, and you just say, oh, darn, we screwed up, we'll be right back to fix it. Or you just say, I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to get through this, they'll go with you 90% of the time.